Hi everyone, Be'ezrat Hashem. Today we continue the Kashrut class and we will learn together about all the kosher stuff, what we're allowed to do and how we're allowed to eat it. And before that, I would like to review what we have spoken last class and then we'll continue from there, okay? Just for summarize. Just a second. Last class was spoken about all the type of kosher animals, and we showed you exactly what we're allowed to eat. Animals from the chicken or from the ground or a type of birds, duck, turkey, goat, deer, cow, lamb, and then we spoke about all the type of animals that we're not allowed to eat, that forbidden, pig, camel, reptiles and eel and rabbit, all those type of animals that they don't have the kosher sign. And okay, and we spoke about all the type of kosher of fish, that only fish with fins and scales are allowed to eat. This is which is the herring, tuna, salmon, and cod, and trout, and palis. This is the type of fish are kosher. And also inside the animals that we spoke about, all the parts inside the animal that kosher or not kosher. And we spoke about the birds, the 24 birds that not kosher according to Torah, that only birds that allow, that birds that not hunting and not prayer. So we spoke about it also. And also we spoke about the signs of kosher, sign of kosher of animals in the meat. This is required to have a cloven hooves, split hooves, or the chew, the cod, and the parts of the fish, the fins and scales. This is the sign of kosher that you can see which animal and which type of meat is kosher or no. Okay? This is the parts that we didn't spoke about. This is the insects, that all the insects that not kosher, all the flies, the cockroaches, and all the stuff that going on the ground. This is called sheretz ha'of, all the little flies that are not kosher. All the flies that walking on four legs or have a little wings, that are not kosher. The only type of kosher is the only four types of grasshopper that you have to have four legs in the front, four wings each side, two legs, and the wings cover the entire or most of the fly himself. This is the four signs of insects. Okay, and or four signs of a kosher grasshopper. This is the only things that allowed to eat. Okay, this is the four signs. I mean, it's not so common today, but in Morocco and many other places used to eat it at that time. Even my father told me that he used to eat it and fried it like French fries. Okay. We spoke about the halak versus kosher. What's the difference? Kosher is an animal with bubbles on the lungs and have no holes. We spoke about it, only bubbles, but you can smash it. But the lungs are when you blow it, it's has no holes. This is called kosher. Halak, which means that come from the cow that have no issue, no bubbles, nothing. According to Ashkenazim, kosher it's enough. According to Sfaradim, only halak is kosher. But kosher regular is not kosher, it's treif. So we have to make sure that it's only halak, it's only glad kosher. Okay? Today we're going to talk about the kosher fruit from animals. Okay? What is the kosher fruit from animals? The Gemara said that whatever come from the animal, whether it's a kosher animal, whether it's not kosher animal, it depends on which animal is coming from, which means any kind of food, that you eat from animal, from a chicken or from any kind of animal, if the animal is kosher, the food that come out from the animal, it's also kosher. But the food that comes from a not kosher animal is not kosher. Which means, if we're talking about eggs, it comes from a chicken, right? That chicken is kosher, which means that we have to make sure that the chicken got slaughtered in the kosher way, and then the eggs come from a kosher chicken. Okay? If it comes from a not kosher chicken, you're not allowed to eat even the egg. Okay? The same thing, any kind of the same thing, milk that come from a kosher cow, a kosher animal, we're allowed to drink. If it come from a camel or come from other animals that are not kosher, you're not allowed to eat it. Okay? You're not allowed to eat it. So we have to make sure that this type of food that we eat is not just type of food in general, that kosher or not kosher, depends what it's coming from. So how do we know that this milk and this egg come from a kosher animal or kosher chicken? How do we know it? There is a few signs. How you can see it when you buy it. I mean, usually when you buy from a store, you don't have to get a kosher sign as long as you know that it's come from a chicken. Okay? As long as you know that it's come from a chicken, you don't have to check it out. But the problem is that sometimes you don't know if it's come from a chicken. So if it's come from a kosher chicken, so you see that one side is a circle, one side is a little bit shape, a little bit close in shape. This is a kosher egg that come from a kosher chicken. If it comes from not kosher chicken, it's shape. I mean, it's sharp in two sides. Sharp in two sides. It's not like circle one side and sharp on the other side. Okay, this is one of the signs between the chicken is not chicken. So this is come only the sign. These are other signs, but today in our industry, so you can see the sign, or you can see if it come from a chicken, and then you know that it's kosher. Okay, but this is when we talk about eggs. What about if we're talking about milk? The milk, this is the problem today, that you don't know, sometimes it's come from a cow, or come from a goat, or come from a camel, come from not kosher animal, or from kosher animal. So that's why you have to make sure that you see the sign of kosher, OUD, which means OU, that is kosher, D, dairy, that is kosher dairy. Okay? But this is the difference between the Chalav Stam versus Chalav Israel. Chalav Israel, which means that is coming from a place that have a Jewish guy supervise the milk. He open and turn on the machines that take the milk, took the milk from the cow. Okay? Chalav Stam, which means that not Chalav Israel, it's kosher, you're allowed to drink it if you're not makpid on Chalav Israel. I'm going to explain you. The Torah said that we're allowed to eat and drink only from a kosher animal or kosher chicken. So if you would like to drink from a cow, a milk, it's kosher. But the problem is that the Gemara said later on in the generations, in the Gemara in Avodah Zarah, page 36, the Gemara said that Chazal, our sages, Gazru, they have establish a takana that we're not allowed to eat a milk or any kind of food that cooked by the goy, by non-Jewish guy, because it's going to be making them hanging out together, and then it's going to make them intermarriage. If they're going to drink, at that time they used to drink milk a lot. So they're going to hang out together, they can sleep over in each other's houses, and then they can have an intermarriage. So they have three things that they have, that they're making a line that we're not allowed to eat. I'm going to explain it. The first one, it's a meat, it's a milk. Second one, it's a bread. The third one is a wine. It's called wine stam, which means nesech. Okay? Yain nesech. Okay? So when we're talking about milk, first of all, when we're talking about milk, chalav stam, which means stam, that is not chalav Israel. It's the milk that comes from a cow that not have the supervision of Jewish guy, only a non-Jewish guy. So you know that it's come from a kosher place or kosher animal, but it's not have the supervision of a Jewish guy. So it might be a problem, Chazal said, because the non-Jewish can change it. The non-Jewish can replace the milk and give you not kosher animals' milk. That's why when you drink, the Chazal said, when you drink milk, you have to make sure that it's Chalav Israel. Why Chalav Israel? Because you have to make sure that this milk have the supervision of the Jewish guy, and the non-Jewish is not going to replace it. Okay? So again, Chazal said three takanot. Takana, which means is they establish a kind of guideline that give you the separation between the Jewish and non-Jewish, because at that time they have a lot of problems of intermarriage. So they have three things that they have. They said milk and bread and wine has to be in the supervision of a Jewish guy, and you're not allowed to eat it or drink it or use it if the non-Jewish guy touch it or see it or have any Jewish guy supervise it. Okay? So let's go step by step again. So the milk, first of all, even you have OU, but we have around it the D. Beside that, you see the D, which means dairy, which means that it's dairy, but you have to see next to it Chalav Israel, which means they have an extra supervision, an extra kashrut that makes sure that this chalav, this milk, have a supervision of the Jewish guy. Okay? If you don't see it, it's still kosher, but you're allowed to drink it only in certain places. Why? In United States, there is no problem to drink even chalav that is not chalav Israel. Why? Because we have another conditions in the Gemara. The Gemara said, if you have non-Jewish guy took it from a kosher animal, it's kosher, Only if you have in this state, in this place, have a fear of this guy. He has a fear that if he's going to replace, the government will give him a fine that scare them to be kicked out from the job or close his business. So because he's afraid not to replace this milk from with the other milks that are not kosher, that's why you have no problem. So this milk comes from a cow, and we have no issue or any suspicions that he might be change it to the non-kosher milk, not kosher animal. You understand? So only in the United States, if you have an OU and the dairy, the D, which means that it's kosher, but it's dairy, but it's not Chalav Israel, you're still allowed to drink it, because in the United States, they have a law, a very strict law, that if you're doing anything that might be not legit, you might be change it, you're going to get a very, very big fine and punished, and you can close the factory on the place. So that's why they don't change it. So Moshe Feinstein and many other poskim said there is no problem, and you don't have to be strict about Chalav Israel. Even the religious people like me and other rabbis, of course, and those people come from Israel, so we keep only Chalav Israel. So wherever we go, we have to make sure that it's Chalav Israel. Sometimes it's hard because sometimes traveling, sometimes you live in the United States and in many other places, sometimes in Europe. So there's no Chalav Israel. So you're getting used to it, to drink almond milk or other type of milk or soy milk that's kosher, but you don't have to have the Chalav Israel sign or something like that. Okay, but in the United States you have no problem. In Europe you have a problem. In any other places that they don't have the same laws on the United States, so it might be a problem, because even you have OU, or even you know that it's come from a kosher animal, but sometimes they can change it, they can trick, they can put on the box, on the bag a kosher sign, but it's not. So in United States they have no problem. But I mean, if you can, so as much as you can, to buy the kosher milk. Otherwise, if you don't want, or it's too expensive for you, or you don't have the same things in the kosher, in the Chalav Israel ones, so you can use not Chalav Israel. Okay? But it's kosher as long as they have OUD. But if you have no sign, don't drink it and don't touch it. Whether it's a milk, whether it's a cheese, whether it's any kind of dairy stuff. You're not buying it because it could be from a not kosher animal. Okay? So, whether it's a yellow cheese, whether it's a cheese from a goat, whether it's something that mixed with dairy stuff. Sometimes they mix dairy stuff with the meat stuff or other stuff that put it inside. So or powders or any other spices. So we have to make sure that it's OUD. Okay, the same thing. The same thing. When we're talking about Chalav Israel or milk, you have to make sure that it's OUD, and also you have to make sure that it's the milk himself and not something else. Which means even the people they have strict about Chalav Israel. It's the only halacha that said that you need to drink Chalav Israel. It's just about the milk himself. But if it's the powder of the milk, maybe it's powder of the milk. Some of the poskim said that is not the milk himself; it's just a powder after they make it dry, so you're allowed to drink it or use it or eat it, even it's not Chalav Israel. But whoever keep Chalav Israel, we drinking only Chalav Israel and make sure that it's only Chalav Israel. Okay? But some of the poskim said that if it's a powder, you don't have to be makpid on Chalav Israel. What about the gelatin? Gelatin, this is another type of stuff that come from an animal, and you have to make sure that it come from a kosher animal. And also, you use it for ice cream, use it for yogurts and stuff like that. Sometimes it comes from bones that comes from not kosher animals. They make the bones dry and they squeeze it together and then make a powder like that. So some of the poskim said that they're allowed to use it even it's not coming from a kosher animal. So gelatin, it's as long as you know when it's coming from, and because they have no taste and they're dry, they cancel the taste. So even you have gelatin inside. So some of the poskim said that even it's not coming from a kosher animal, you're allowed to eat it. So whatever you see that is included gelatin, you see even the OU and you see the kosher sign, so they have no problem to eat it because they have many heiterim and requirements in the halacha that make it kosher, even it's coming from a not kosher, because they're already there, they already cancel the taste, it's already considered like nothing. But it just for your knowledge to know it, that if you see gelatin, so you can see even a kosher certificates on the restaurants, even they serve gelatin and jelly and stuff like that. Okay, so anyway, this is according the milk. Let's go from the second one. The second one, when the Chazal said that we need to be makpid, it's a pat Israel, pat which means bread, Israel, that bread that come from a kosher place, bread that come from a kosher supervisor, bread that come from a oven that a Jewish guy open it and turn it on. Okay, let's explain what I mean by that. Pat Israel, you can see a lot of type of breads today that you can see OU, but you don't see, beside that, underneath, you don't see the word Pat Israel. So which means that it's kosher. That means that the bread have a kosher ingredients, which means that they don't add any other type of ingredients from dairy, from meat, from other stuff that are not kosher. So which means that it's kosher. But it's not made by the Jewish people. It's not made by the Jewish guy that turn on the oven or turn on the place when they bake it. Okay? So Chazal said, if you eat it from a place that is made by non-Jewish guy, you might eat with them, and then you might marry his daughter and be close to him. That's why Chazal make it strict. Don't go and don't eat from a bread that come from non-Jewish guy. So what we're supposed to do? So what is supposed to do? First of all, today it's very easy, because almost everywhere we can find Pat Israel. You have challah bread, you have all type of bread. Even some of the bread that not showing Pat Israel, like Ezekiel bread, you can see online. There is a websites that show that that some of the products, whether it's a bread, whether it's other products, even they don't show this kosher sign or Pat Israel or something like that. It's Pat Israel. So Ezekiel bread, it's Pat Israel, and many other breads also have a Star K or OU or many other kosher signs. We're gonna learn it later on, and but as much as you can to see Pat Israel, so buy it. What about if you don't find Pat Israel? So the Shulchan Aruch said the rest of the year, as long as you know that the kosher ingredients, as long as you know that it's kosher and it's have no other problem to put inside, you're allowed to eat it. Today, in our in, industry, industry, you're allowed to eat it because we have everything written. At that time, they don't have. So if you have it from Go, you don't know what you put inside. But as today you have, so as long as it's OU, you can eat it. I mean, we and the religious and the very high religious people, we keep in Pat Israel everywhere, wherever we go. One time I've been in Morocco, in Marrakesh, for a week, and we didn't have Pat Israel. They're all Arabs people. So what we did, like the Shulchan Aruch said, if you're in a place that you don't have Pat Israel, you really want this baguette, or you really want this bread, but it's not made by Arabs. So taking piece of wood, or even a stick, how you call it, um, that you use for your teeth, toothpick, toothpick. You can throw it inside. It's like you participate with this baking, and then you allow it's called and considered patisserie. That's what we did. We came every morning to the bakery and we throw something, and that's what I did when I was a rabbi in Ocean City, Maryland. We didn't have patisserie, so I used to go to the store and tell them, when you baking, I can throw something inside, and then you make me challah and make me other breads. Okay, or we make the dough at home. But anyway, if you don't do it, let's say they already bake it, they already make the baguette, but it's half made. You know those baguettes, those that it's a dough. As long as you can finish it and make it ready in your house, you making it kosher and pat Israel in your house. So even you buy it, as long as you know, first of all, the ingredients, it's all kosher. And whether it's and have OU, but it just have the problem that you don't have pat Israel, so you can make it pat Israel by baking it again in your house, or or finish the baking by put it in your oven in your house. But if you don't have it, the rest of the year, you're allowed to use OU, even it's not Pat Israel in our generation, and only in the 10 days of Teshuvah, between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, remember, Shulchan Aruch said, those people who are not makpid, who don't care about Pat Israel the rest of the year, at least the 10 days between Rosh Hashanah and Kippur, make sure that you're eating only Pat Israel. So Pat Israel is only required by pat, which means bread. What about the cookies? What about the cookies? So some of the poskim said that the cookies are not required Pat Israel. So if you see OU on cookies, as long as it's kosher ingredients, you see OU, you're allowed to eat it. Okay? As long as it's not bread. Because the takana, what the Chazal established, these guidelines of Pat Israeli was not on cookies, only on bread. So cookies do not require Pat Israeli. Some of the poskim said that they also require, depends which level you are, but I'm talking about the basic halacha. So as long as you see that it's kosher, it's okay, even if it's not Pat Israel. Okay? What about wine? What about wine? When we're talking about wine, this is the most problem today. The most problem today. Because Chazal said we have type of wine that called wine stams. Whatever you see the word stam, which means that is not Israel, it's not supervision by Israel, come from a goyim. It can be a kosher wine. It can be, I mean, from grape juice or from grapes. Sorry. But what make it stam? When what make it yain nesech? What does the yain nesech mean? When a goy touching it, whether he touched the bottle, whether he touched the wine himself. Why? What does the yain nesech mean? The Torah said, also the Gemara in Avodah Zarah said that at that time the goyim, the non-Jewish people, used to take the wine and mix it and use it for worship idols. That's why the Gemara said, our sages came and they said, no more. Not allowed to touch a wine as long as you don't have any any idea who touched it before, or if you have any suspicions that not Jewish guy touch it. There is two reasons why they said that we're not allowed to drink wine from a goyim. One reason, because they use it for avodah zarah, for worship idols. The second reason, because of intermarriage. They used to hang up together on the bar, right? The bar, yeah, on the places and nightclub or something like that. They used to drink and then getting drunk and then have a relationship together and then intermarriage, like happening today with the Israeli guys. They see not Jewish girls and then they marry together and then we have non-Jewish kids and all these problems and we're losing our nations. So that's why Chazal said, do not touch a wine that not Jewish guy touch it. So if you are not Jewish or you're next to not Jewish, whether it's a waiter, whether it's your employee, whether it's your lady cleaning, do tell her and tell them, do not touch my wine. Okay? Do not touch my wine. And you know that if you didn't do the conversion yet, do not touch a wine. When I'm talking about wine, it's a real wine. Okay? When I'm talking about wine, it's a real wine. What do you mean real wine? I'm not talking about grape juice. Grape juice, it's out of it, which means the grape juice you're allowed to touch it because it's already cooked. All the wine that cooked have no, not considered yain nesech. Nesech, which means mixing. Okay, yain nesech, to drink wine that goy, not Jewish guy, touch it. It's much more worse to eat pork. Okay, people doesn't know it. Oh, what's the problem? Okay, he touch it or did that. Sometimes a co-worker. Sometimes you see, we live among the goyim, we live among those not Jewish around us, and sometimes we don't. We're not aware. So as long as it's a wine that not cooked and the non-Jewish guy touch it, some of the poskim said even see it, we're not allowed to touch it. But we're not allowed to drink it. Okay? Even a Jewish guy that is not Shomer Shabbat, is not keeping Shabbat, touch the wine, he make it yain nesech, we're not allowed to drink it. So we have to be careful about that because it's very, very severe. People doesn't know it. You should be aware that we're not allowed to touch the wine. Even it's kosher and everything is okay. But somebody else touch it all the time when I'm going to do weddings or going to places, to events, and I see the waiter say, "Oh, Rabbi, I opened the wine for you." I said, "No, I can't use it." Sometimes I got stuck. I need to go drive and buy another wine. He said, "What's the problem?" I said, "Nobody allowed to touch my wine. I need to open it by myself." He said, "Well, what's the problem?" If it was open before and he touched it, also you make it yain nesech and not kosher. Okay? The only difference between non-Jewish or a Jewish guy that not shomer Shabbat, not keeping Shabbat, or a person or not keeping Shabbat, consider like a goy, consider like non-Jewish for this type of halacha, this type of law, and many others. We're going to learn about it. About kashrut, it's very, very strict. A person not keeping Shabbat, you almost cannot touch his food. You're going to learn the details. But according to wine, you make sure that it's only Jewish people. Open it and touch it and pour it. That's why in Pesach, sometimes Passover, we invite a lot of people. And sometimes we invite people who in the process of conversion. I told them, you're going to get the grape juice. You're not allowed to touch the real wine. Okay? This is called yain nesech. It's only real wine. It's not wine that cooked. Wine that cooked, they're allowed to touch it and they don't make it yain nesech. Okay? But we're not allowed to go any bar, any restaurant that not kosher, of course, any place that we don't know what's going on with the wine. And of course, in the wine that for sure we see the non-Jewish guy open it and drink it. So there's no such a thing. Oh, Rabbi, we're just going to drink something on the bar. We're not going to the bar. We're not going to any place outside that is not kosher. Okay? Because we strict about kashrut. because this is the stuff that's going inside of you and make influence of you more than anything else. Okay, so this is the third things that Chazal make a guideline and prevent us to be mixed the goyim, because we don't want to get intermarriage with them. Okay, so for summarize, when we talking about the food that we allowed to eat and drink, it's only from it come from kosher animal and a kosher place and is supervised by the Jewish guy. Okay, like milk, like pat Israel, like bread and wine. The only things that is exceptional, they have a different law and different halacha, that even it's come from a not kosher animal, and we still allowed to eat and drink the food inside that comes inside. It's the honey that comes from a bee. Bee, even it's not kosher, but we still allowed to eat it. Okay, this is the honey. It comes from a bee. It's exceptional. Usually, a kosher food only from a kosher animal, but except the honey. Why? Why the honey have a different law, and why the honey is still kosher? It comes from a not kosher insect, right? From a not kosher creature. So the Gemara said in Maseret Bechorot, page 6, the Gemara said the only reason we're allowed to drink and eat the honey, because the honey, when the bee suck the stuff from from a flower or whatever, and she make the honey, is not going directly in her tummy, have a different stomach from the honey. So because it's not going in a regular stomach, is not considered kol hayotze min hatameh tameh, kol hayotze min hataor taor, which means the Gemara said a statement: whoever come from a kosher animal or kosher place, it's kosher food. Whatever come from a not kosher place is not kosher food, except the honey. The Gemara explained that because there's two type of system of her stomach. And today, a few years ago, they found out, at that time when the Gemara didn't have x-ray, they couldn't find it, they couldn't prove it. But today, in the science, you can see in the book, and you can Google it, and you can see it. They have a different stomach. That's why the only reason we're allowed to eat the honey and use it. And even you have no kosher sign, as long as it's 100% pure, you're allowed to eat and use the honey. Okay, so this is the stuff that come from a kosher animals that we're allowed to eat, and the stuff that come from not kosher animal you're not allowed to eat, but only honey. This is exceptional that Chazal give us a permission to eat. But even we have a kosher food, a kosher animal, okay, you have to have another few requirements that we're going to learn the rest of the shiurim, that all the process until it comes to our plate, okay? You have to make sure that it comes from a slaughter, that the cow was slaughtered the right way, and they check it out, the parts inside. They know how to clean it right, they know how to salt it, and all of that. And this is the process until it comes to a place, to our plate. So this is also the other requirements. But as long as everything is okay, as long as today we have the industry that kosher sign and it's too sealed, it's everything, it's kosher or glatt or whatever, so you don't have to make sure that you have all this process. I'm talking about only if you're in a place that is no, you come in and see it and take it from a butcher or from a place that they have no kosher sign or something like that. So you have to go all the process with Zad Hashem. Next year we're going to learn about how to make it kosher if you got a meat from someone, or what if you see a blood, because we have to make sure that it's not come, you have no blood, the eggs, yeah, or the rest of the meat, how we taking out the blood, what type of blood it's not kosher, and we're gonna learn about if it's got mixed together, what we're allowed to mix, what we're not allowed to mix, okay, and all of that, Bezat Hashem, we're gonna learn, because we have to make sure that is uh, also another issue, another things that you're not allowed to eat. It's from either minachai, which means from a live animal. Of course, nobody gonna eat it. This is one of the law and the Torah that we're not allowed to eat. But as long as today we see it and we see the ingredients and we see the signs, we can eat it and make sure that as long as it's halak, it's not just kosher, it's glad kosher. As long as we see OU, OUD, Halav Israel, Pat Israel, as much as you can to make it strict, especially in Kashrut. This is the minimum that we can do. Even that, sometimes you heard a lot of problems of people that streaking and cheating or something like that. It doesn't end. But this is for tonight. With the next shurim, we're going to continue the rest of the halachot. Okay?